Oh my god!
On May 30th, 2019, Paramount Pictures unveiled their first look at the new Sonic the Hedgehog live-action movie, and the internet exploded. No! People were horrified at the iconic blue hedgehog's grotesque new design, Twitter overflowing with images decrying its disturbingly elongated limbs, its uncanny, eerie face, and its human teeth, before Paramount eventually took the trailer down, delaying the film's release by several months and costing the studio $5 million. For some, this was unprecedented, the first time a major film distributor had buckled under the weight of fan pressure. But for others, this was just another chapter in the bizarre modern reality of Sonic the Hedgehog. Something I really love about the internet is that once a piece of media or a character goes online, you can never be sure how people will interpret it. Take the Twitter account of Tony the Tiger, for example. Once a fairly safe, sport-loving cereal mascot, online he was transformed into an anthropomorphic thirst magnet, to the point that Kellogg's, so confounded with how to deal with the new identity that had been imposed on their mascot, chose to delete the account. This is what's happened to Sonic the Hedgehog. Over 3 decades, Sega's iconic character has gone from the king of the video game industry to a fallen icon, so distorted and corrupted by the internet that just Googling Sonic can lead to a bizarre world of insanity. And it's this world I want to talk about. But to do that, I think it's important to understand why Sonic was such a big deal to begin with, and so the year is 1991. Like the radical dude you are, you skateboard to your local park, excited to tell your best friend Jake about finally beating Super Mario World. But when you do, Jake, his Pantera pins glistening in the sun, exclaims, "Dude, forget Mario, you gotta see what's going down at the mall, man." And when you get there, you're met with a giant crowded kiosk containing 2 massive screens. On one is the safe, inviting world of Super Mario, but on the other is something else, something different. A spiky blue hedgehog blazes across a lush green world, obliterating robotic enemies and freeing animals from their mechanized prison. There's a style and an energy to this game that you've never seen before, and you stand there transfixed. And Jake, his breath smelling faintly of coffee and cigarettes, whispers, "Dude, his name's Sonic." I know a lot of you weren't alive in 1991, and that frightens me in a way I don't quite understand, but this was a scene that was common in malls across America and part of a massive marketing campaign by Sega designed to break Nintendo and Mario's near-decade-long stranglehold over the console market. This was a time when Nintendo didn't so much rule the console industry as much as they were the console industry. But Sonic was the perfect counter to that. While his 90s attitude-fueled persona might seem a little played out today, at the time Sonic was a legitimate anti-establishment icon. In the same way both Pepsi and Apple marketed themselves as the radical new alternative to the established norm, Sonic was marketed as the faster, cooler, better version of Mario. And you could feel that wild energy in the pounding pace of his games, which introduced the world to a new kind of high-speed, momentum-based platforming, which, if you got good enough at, would let you obliterate levels with a blistering energy and style like nothing else did, and it was mesmerizing. Sonic was wild and cool, and adding to that feeling was the unique way the game characterized him. Set your controller down in Sonic 1, and whereas his competitors would stand there obediently waiting for your command, Sonic would stare at you, impatiently tapping his foot. And it was such a subtle touch, but it was also a piece of fourth wall breaking, character building brilliance. Sonic wasn't just an avatar for you to control, he was a character with his own thoughts and feelings, and that was important. Because I'd argue that what people loved about the early days of Mario were his games, what people loved about the early days of Sonic was Sonic. Sega building on that appeal with 2 separate comic book and animated series, all of which existed in their own universe with their own distinct take on what Sonic was. But the one that always stayed with me was the 1993 Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. I can remember watching this show as a kid and feeling slightly creeped out but intrigued by its weird, sinister edge. This was a version of Mobius Robotnik had already taken over. Sonic and his group of freedom fighter friends forced to live in this dark, mechanized hellscape, with Robotnik presented as this genuine force of evil, sacrificing all life in the name of his horrific technological ambition. And what made it feel real was that Sonic didn't always win. There were scenes where he'd fail, scenes where he couldn't save someone. One slightly traumatic scene seeing Sonic forced to watch as his girlfriend Sally is transformed into a horrific mechanical version of herself. Scenes like this, both in this show and in the Archie comics, mattered because as a kid, it let you see the more human side of Sonic's character, while also providing a more well-realized world for you to get lost in. One that felt arguably a little more real and scary than the princess-saving escapades of other video games. The world constantly on the brink of falling into this horrific technological dystopia, but there was always this cool-ass little hedgehog who'd fight to keep that from happening. And say what you will about the Sonic series in general, that's still a fun fantasy to believe in. It was the power of that fantasy combined with the quality of his games that let Sega do the impossible and steal market share away from Nintendo, taking Sonic to the very peak of the industry, now an icon beloved by millions. And so, in the early days of the internet, it was only natural that Sonic communities started to form, and some of the earliest ways you could see this were in the Sonic Sprite comics, which involved fans ripping sprites out of the different Sonic games and pasting them into their own panelled stories. But where this concept really started to take off was when people began to bring these sprites into Flash and animate them, with sites like Newgrounds.com letting users upload their creations and share them with a wider audience. Keep in mind, this was years before YouTube would reach mainstream popularity, so stumbling across Newgrounds and finding an entire community of people all making animations about the same stuff you loved, it was kind of a revelation, like discovering this hidden subworld of video games that belonged entirely to fans and outside the control of corporations. And over time, the quality of these animations began to skyrocket. Titles like Sonic Final Fantasy doing weird experimental things, like splicing really well done sprite animations with interactive turn-based battles. However, the king of the sprite animations from this era came in 2006 in the form of Super Mario Bros. Z. Like a lot of sprite animations, Mario Bros. Z pulled in different assets from different games, but what made this different was the level of skill and creativity its creator, Alvin Earthworm, manipulated these sprites with, animating them with a real sense of weight and impact, even breaking them to the point of cheating three-dimensional camera moves, giving Mario Bros. Z a genuinely cinematic feel. These were all sprites you were familiar with, but now they were clashing and exploding with all the spectacle and excitement of the best Dragon Ball Z showdowns. Today it's impressive, but back then it was mind-blowing. The idea that one person, that a fan, could create something so ambitious. Telling a story which, despite the name, focused heavily on Sonic traveling back to the Mushroom Kingdom after Mobius and all his friends were wiped out by Mecha Sonic. Mecha Sonic was originally a fairly standard sprite ripped from Sonic and Knuckles, but here he was transformed into this world-ending nightmare, a genuinely terrifying villain whose appearance in any scene spelt death and destruction, giving new life to what had originally been a very tiny part of the Sonic universe. Over time, people even started making their own Sonic fan games, with creators like Christian Taxman Whitehead building his own Sonic engine and other users using that engine to make Sonic games that could easily pass for an official title. Other developers even breaking open the concept concept of what Sonic is completely and transplanting him into entirely new genres, like Sonic Smackdown, a fighting game made by indie developer Arc Forged, which is so astoundingly polished, it's kind of shocking it's not an official release. There was actually an official Sonic fighting game and it's really bad. And I think it's here where you can really see the beauty of fan creations, the ability to take characters and concepts from a fictional universe and give them a life that they never had before. One of my favorite examples of this being the webcomic Hanging Out, starring two minor characters from the Sonic universe, Amy Rose from Sonic CD and Metal Sonic from Sonic 3, neither of which featured that largely in these games, but here we're shown a world set years after the events of Sonic 3's story, in which a reformed Metal Sonic attempts to reintegrate into society, and in the process forming an endearing relationship with Amy Rose. And it's really cute and kind of sad, a lot of the charm coming from just seeing these characters casually spend time together in a way that would never really be possible in an official video game, and presenting it all in this really cute, fun art style. A lot of the appeal of these fan works coming from watching artists reinterpret these characters in their own visual language. Like take Evan Stanley, author of Ghosts of the Future, a webcomic that ran for 10 years, over the course of which you can watch Stanley go from an amateur comic book artist to a genuinely amazing illustrator. With more recent fan comics like Sonic Skyline by Draw Lover Lala being one of the most genuinely beautiful visual treatments I've ever seen Sonic get, official or not. When you look at all this stuff together, it becomes pretty clear that Sonic has inspired a universe that fan creators really want to be a part of. And while there is a level of infamy that's come with that, which we will get to, I think it'd be pretty shitty to ignore all the genuinely amazing works people have made out of pure passion for Sonic and his universe. However, where that more infamous side of Sonic would begin to emerge would be at the dawn of the new millennium, which would bring with it dark times for Sonic. The year is 2001. You've just finished watching Jake's DVD copy of Osmosis Jones when the sound of your Nokia 3210's message alert breaks the night silence. It's Jake, likely giving you the latest on his parents' messy divorce, but then you see it. Dude, Sega cancelled the Dreamcast. And your mind reels. That's impossible. For years now, it's been you and Jake defending Sega, defending Sonic against all your PlayStation-owning friends. The Sonic Adventure games were good, people just didn't understand them. How could this happen? And what would it mean for Sonic? What would it mean for you and Jake? And for the first time in your young life, the future begins to feel uncertain. The turn of the millennium was a difficult time for Sonic. Sonic X-treme was meant to be Sega's flagship Sonic title for the Sega Saturn, but a disastrous development run preceded its cancellation, Sega going an entire generation without their iconic blue hedgehog. With the Sonic Adventure games releasing a generation later for the Dreamcast, which had the unenviable task of adopting Sonic's high-speed momentum-based gameplay into 3D. And people have warred for years over whether that's something these games did successfully or not, but for our purposes, what's important is that these games split the Sonic fanbase between an audience who longed for the old classic 2D days of Sonic and a newer audience that accepted the 3D, with infighting between the two groups being a common sight in gaming message boards. However, there was also another deeper problem forming, and that was, what exactly was Sonic in the year 2000? The same rebellious attitude that had made him feel so fresh 10 years ago now felt tired. In part because Sonic had been so successful, he had spawned a tidal wave of 90s attitude-filled animal mascot imitators. Rocky Rodent, Aero Acrobat, Bubsy, Mr. Nuts, Punk Skunk, Awesome Possum, Radical Rex, Wild Woody, Jazz Jackrabbit, High Seas Havoc, Gex the Lizard, Shawn Michaels, each one diluting Sonic's persona to the point that by the end of the 90s, the mascot with attitude had become a parody of a parody of a parody, diminishing Sonic's appeal as a marketing tool and his core identity. Sonic was starting to feel lost, not only appearing on the consoles of his former enemies, but even struggling to find a way to stay relevant, leading to a disastrous run of Sonic titles, each one struggling to reinvent the character in different, unsuccessful ways. Sonic and the Black Knight saw Sonic transported back to a medieval fantasy world, engaging in motion-controlled sword fights to the sound of early 2000s butt rock. Shadow the Hedgehog starred Sonic's edgy rival Shadow, in which he had a gun and shot people. And Sonic Unleashed turned the Sega icon into a stretchy armed werehog. Oh god. I'm sorry, it's just, at what point was someone like, guys, let's make him a fucking werewolf? But the low point of the entire franchise came in Sonic 06, a disastrous game so rampant with poor design choices and game-breaking glitches, it became a laughingstock, plummeting Sonic's Metacritic to the lowest it had ever been. Sonic had never felt further from his rival Mario, who at the time was releasing some of his most critically acclaimed games ever. This period giving rise to the term Sonic Cycle, describing the pattern of excitement that would run through the fanbase at the announcement of a new Sonic game, only for that hope to be dashed at the inevitable disappointment of its release. To Sonic fans, this was a crushing period of disillusionment, but to everyone else, Sonic had become a joke, a fallen icon who had once ruled over the gaming industry, now starring in low-quality trash. And you could feel that frustration mounting in the Sonic fan community, with videos of irate Sonic fans furious over the state of Sonic and his fanbase. The most infamous of these being the now legendary 13-minute rant from Sammy Classic Sonic Fan.
You guys are the ones that ruined Sonic for everyone! When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
I should say that Sammy and others were likely playing up characters for the sake of these videos, as was pretty common back then, but they were still viewed by millions and millions of people who did not know that, creating a strange, distorted perception of Sonic and the people who played his games. That's not to say there hasn't always been something ever so slightly cursed about the Sonic franchise. Whether it's the Sonic Macy's Day Parade float getting caught on a pole and bursting, Ken Pender's bizarre Sonic comic storylines culminating in him suing Archie and Sega for the rights to his characters and winning due to Archie failing to establish a proper contract, or that time that Sonic made out with a human lady. Sonic's always been strange, but now the fall of the Sonic games combined with an angry, frustrated fanbase began to mutate the kind of fan content people were creating. Now you were beginning to see strange, surreal depictions of Sonic, eerie, uncanny works that distorted the very idea of what Sonic even was. And at the epicenter of this shift was a webcomic by artist Tyson Hess called Sonic's Big Fat Adventure. But rather than being a loving interpretation of Sonic's world, this was a surreal, satirical take that satirized every part of Sonic, from its characters to its gameplay to even its own fans. And it blew up. It's difficult to state how big this comic was in the late 2000s as the original's been taken down, but an animated version of it on YouTube has amassed nearly 10 million views. The reason I think this comic, as well as the new wave of distorted Sonic art, resonated with people is because it captured something real. Sonic really was starting to feel like a corrupted, broken image of himself. And this art spoke to that, people now creating fan media to reflect that distorted, broken image. And what's really interesting about a lot of this stuff is there's this kind of weird uncanniness to it. It's hard to tell what's a genuine loving piece of fan fiction, what's parody, and what's outright mockery of Sonic and his fans. And possibly the strangest and most bizarre instance of this is the story of Tails Gets Trolled. On February 18th, 2012, a post appeared on the Something Awful forums titled "Sonic and Friends Get Trolled." The post linked to a DeviantArt comic where a misshapen Tails the Fox was harassed by internet trolls, before later returning with Shadow and violently murdering them. And there was something so strange and angry about this comic. It had distorted, misshapen artwork. Its characters spoke in rambling streams of slurs and expletives, riddled with spelling and grammatical errors. Some panels were so bizarrely hilarious that they became memes in their own right, and Something Awful posters were merciless, descending on the comic and tearing it apart, criticizing everything from the artwork to the strange way the characters spoke, some even showing concern over the mental state of its author, Laserbot. But then slowly, something really weird started to happen. Tails Gets Trolled started to get good, like really good. There was character development, there were plot twists, there was a genuine narrative with themes forming, and what's crazy is you can see the tone of the forums begin to change as the story goes on, as people in disbelief begin to earnestly enjoy the story. The conflict between Tails and the trolls expanding gradually outwards into a massive war, drawing in fictional characters from several different universes, all with their own motives, philosophies, factions, relationships, and backstories that were so weirdly well developed. There was even shonen-esque battle mechanics, the battles themselves despite the artwork being genuinely tense and exciting, to the point that people began to wonder if Tails Gets Trolled was itself a massive troll. One page could see the genuinely devastating dissolution of Sonic and Amy's relationship. The next would see Knuckles getting stoned in a jacuzzi with Spyro the Dragon. It's insane, but the more I looked into it, the more I started to feel like there was a genuine earnestness to this story. Take a look at Laserbot's DeviantArt gallery and you'll see he's not a stranger to online harassment, and I think the heart of this story comes from how he uses that experience. There's even points in the comic when he addresses people's criticisms of him directly, and at one point his DeviantArt account was even hacked and he wrote that into the storyline as well, making Tails Gets Trolled this weird, fascinating meta-narrative of what it is to be hated by strangers and what is the best way to combat that hate. What I think makes Tails Gets Trolled work is it's someone exploring their own personal issues through the universe of Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's actually pretty common in fan media, but especially in Sonic. Just look at the sheer abundance of Sonic original characters, or OCs. Sonic OCs have their roots way back in even the sprite rip days, when people would modify existing sprites to create their own characters, or redraw frames of the Sonic X TV show to do the same thing. Sonic fan characters became so rampant online, it even became a popular meme on message boards and later Twitter to Google "your name the Hedgehog" and post the results. And I think the reason this meme took off is because it gave people a glimpse at the sheer shocking volume and depth of the Sonic fandom. There were thousands of these characters, and I have a theory as to why that might be. A lot of these fan characters come with in-depth bios, listing even small details like their favorite bands and movies, and these bios would lead me to believe that most of these characters are made by young teenagers, people who maybe fell in love with the Sonic universe at an early age, but as they got older, could feel themselves aging out of it. Sonic is a property primarily aimed at kids, and so they create their own characters that in their eyes are edgier and more mature, in order to fit in with their own perceptions of themselves as young adults, while still enjoying the safe escapism of the Sonic universe they loved as children. Like Tails Gets Trolled, I think these fan characters are people trying to understand their own identity, and like everything on the internet, including myself, became the subject of vicious ridicule. But as the "your name the Hedgehog" meme spread, people began to notice other, stranger sub-communities in the Sonic fandom. Weirdly patriotic Sonic, Christian Sonic, but the one that really shocked people was the strange world of Sonic the Hedgehog pornography.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on there a minute, Past John. Turns out that YouTube does not like it when you talk about Sonic the Hedgehog porn. Who knew? So I'm gonna edit that part out, at least for the minute. The general idea was that yes, there is a lot of adult-orientated Sonic fan material out there, but here's the thing. There is adult-orientated fan material of every fictional property you can think of. And I think what it boils down to is just fans getting older and trying to figure out what they're into through the fictional universes they love, trying to better understand themselves. And really, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that said, it did become a pretty infamous sticking point online. Let's go back to the original video. Oh, and no one's allowed comments on how I look like shit in this video. I've been quarantining for 5 weeks and I am depressed.
The reason Sonic porn became so infamous when so much other erotic fan-made media goes undiscussed is because people were looking for it. Sonic and his fan base already had a bizarre perception online, and the discovery of an erotic subculture only added to that narrative. People now creating media in response to that new, more perverse identity. But it was no longer just about Sonic, it was now about the people who loved him. Which brings us to Sonic Dreams Collection. Sonic Dreams Collection is a free downloadable game from Arcane Kids. Presented as a lost Sonic title, it's a collection of 4 minigames, each of which comments on the Sonic fanbase in its own way. A strange, broken character creator in which you design your own Sonic OC, a bizarre first-person movie maker following your OC throughout their life as the scenarios grow increasingly bizarre and fetishistic. This game is a nightmare, but the high point, if that's what you want to call it, comes in the form of My Roommate Sonic, where the player from first person is instructed through a mobile phone to carry out an increasingly intimate set of actions in order to seduce Sonic, culminating in the player looking deep into his eyes, only for the pupils to converge, opening up a black hole in which the player is absorbed into an alternate reality where they now become a grotesque version of Sonic. Sonic Dreams Collection takes a horrifying glee in its disturbing dissection of the Sonic fanbase. But it was that disturbing quality that made it a popular title among streamers, which exposed the game to millions and millions of people, further distorting and corrupting the image of Sonic and his fans. Online, it now felt like the once lovable hedgehog had been replaced by something darker and more insidious. And by the mid-2010s, to a lot of people, the idea of just being a Sonic fan carried with it some uncomfortable implications. The year is 2015. You lean against the wall of a crowded train cart as a muffled version of Adele's Hello creeps between its passengers. When suddenly you notice next to you, my god, it's Jake! Sure, his hair's shorter now, and it's strange to see him in a suit, but it's him! Jake, you cry, your eyes meeting for the first time in 9 years. Yeah, things had gotten a little complicated between you two the last time you'd met, but it's still so good to see him. And as your mind tumbles back through your memories together, searching for something, anything to say, you stammer out the words, Have you played Sonic Generations? It's pretty good. And an emotion flashes across his face you don't quite recognize. And as the train slows to a stop, he glances down at his briefcase, pausing before mumbling, "No, I don't play those games anymore." And he steps off the train and out of your life forever. And in that moment, amidst the crowded carriage, you've never felt more alone. By this point, the different layers of what Sonic had become on the internet had compounded. The fallen quality of his games, the strange distorted fanworks, the OCs, the porn, it all combined into this twisted amalgamation which gave rise to Sonic. Sonic was inspired by a meme in which different artists drew distorted versions of Sonic running, and from that primordial soup of misshapen hedgehogs, Sonic emerged, a perfect twisted encapsulation of what the internet had done to Sonic. People even taking Sonic media and replacing Sonic with Sonic in lurid parodies of how far the iconic hedgehog had fallen. There's one video from this period called Sonic vs. Sonic, a recording of a fan game where Sonic is chased and hunted by Sonic, as a gargled, nightmarish version of the Green Hill Zone theme plays whenever he draws closer. The video has nearly 10 million views, and I think that's partially due to how nightmarishly comical it is, but I think it also really reflects the plight of modern Sonic, a character struggling against a twisted parody of itself. There's a short film from this period called The Hedgehog, and I love this movie. It's about growing up to become the things that seemed so strange and evil as a child. But I think it also really captures the tragedy of Sonic, as a young boy dressed as the iconic hedgehog wanders a lonely, desolate world. Sonic had become lost, his identity forgotten, nowhere left for him to go. And so when the Sonic movie trailer emerged and unveiled the grotesque new design, it felt like a kind of nightmarish poetry, even for Sega itself. Sonic now resembled a twisted, uncanny version of what he had once been, his relevance slipping into a sad, strange obscurity. Or so it seemed, but then on November 12th, 2019, it was announced that the redesign of the Sonic character was being led by Tyson Hess. The little memeing shitlord of Sonic's Big Fat Adventure was now the series' savior. The new design not being met with disgust, but elation. People were overjoyed with Sonic's new appearance. And not only that, Hess had actually gotten the job from animation work he'd done on Sonic Mania, a game directed by Christian Taxman Whitehead and other members of the Sonic fan game community, that went on to be Sonic's best regarded title in nearly 2 decades. And Evan Stanley, author of the Ghosts of the Future fan comic, went on to illustrate for the official IDW Sonic comic, which is actually pretty fucking great. The reason all this is so important is because for all the missteps Sega have made with Sonic over the years, it's their willingness to embrace their own fan culture that's arguably resurrected Sonic as a mainstream pop culture juggernaut. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie going on to make $100 million at the box office, surpassing even Nintendo's Detective Pikachu. I think fandoms reflect the very best and very worst of what a piece of media is. And Sonic is now a character that exists in 1,000 different forms over countless different media. And yeah, while sometimes they can be strange and disturbing, these are the people who love Sonic and are now drawing his comics, programming his games, and designing his movies, bringing life back to the once fallen character. And I think that's fucking awesome. I think that is the bizarre modern reality of Sonic the Hedgehog. Friends, thank you so much for watching this video, and especially to those of you who have watched it again. If you'd like to see the original version, you can find it in the description below, where you can also find a link to my Patreon, which is really the sole reason I can do big dumb videos like this. And so if you support me, thank you, and if you would like to, head on over to patreon.com/super Eyepatchwolf, where you could also personally be thanked like these fine folk: Arrow Pointing Left Matt, 0771, Karen Lidquist, Buttface McGee, I Like Trains, Aaron Prokopanko, and Bo the Doggo. You can find me as ever over on the Let's Fight a Boss video game podcast or on Twitter at Eyepatchwolf. Friends, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. The year is 2020. Hey, it's Jake. I saw the Sonic movie. I miss you.